There was something about her that we just couldn't put our finger on. There was something that was different.
Tonight on 2020, a blazing fire takes a young fireman's life and sets off a scorching feud between his widow and his family.
She just lied.
Was she hiding who she really was, even from her husband?
He wanted to see, so I showed him my body.
Did you sleep together?
Does she deserve to get this hero's money?
The charade is over.
Plus, a surprise phone call. You're a winner.
A check for $1.1 million.
$1.2 million.
But is the check in the mail?
She goes, John, I won this sweepstakes. And I was like, Mom.
It's the newest nationwide scam using trusted names to rip you off.
It hurts a lot.
Who would do it?
You're a wanted man in the United States.
Can they be stopped? See what's next. Here now, Chris Cuomo and Elizabeth Vargas.
Good evening. Don't answer the phone until you hear our first story. It's about one of the most despicable scams we've come across recently, a money-making scheme built on the most vulnerable members of our families, sick children and senior citizens.
Tonight, you'll hear exclusive phone tapes of these accused outlaws doing their dirty work. And watch as we confront them where they're hiding out. They can run, but they cannot hide, from our chief investigative correspondent, Brian Ross.
My wish is to be a ballerina.
My wish was to see the monarch butterflies.
Now in its 30th year, few charities in the country are as widely respected or trusted as the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Thank you for giving me my wish to be a ballerina.
And it was the charity's very reputation for integrity that helped convince Patricia Bowles of Northern Virginia that she really had won a Make-A-Wish sweepstakes.
Clearly, the first thing you hear when you get a call from Make-A-Wish Foundation, you'd like to think it was real.
Then there was a follow-up call from a government agent with the Treasury Department who had her check.
She said, Mrs. Bowles, we've been trying to reach you. Very, very warm, very kind. There is money here for you.
And to prove it beyond any doubt, the Treasury agent told her she could call the Federal Trade Commission in Washington to verify her winnings, and she did.
You have reached the general voicemail of the Federal Trade Commission.
When the government people called back, the caller ID showed the Washington, D.C. area code 202.
And they were professional sounding.
Mm-hmm. Oh, golly, I can't even begin to tell you. Brilliant.
But somehow the check never seemed to arrive.
You said there is a check.
There was a check for $1.1 million that Gary's picked up. We sent that back to the Federal Trade Commission.
But the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC in Washington, does not help distribute sweepstakes checks.
We do not handle sweepstakes checks. We do exactly the opposite. We go after people who are ripping off consumers.
Nor does the Make-A-Wish Foundation, headquartered in Phoenix, have a $1 million sweepstakes.
We don't call people up and tell them they've won prizes. That's not what we do. We grant wishes to children who have life-threatening medical conditions, period.
Patricia Bowles, a successful businesswoman, knows all that now, but only after sending away most of her life savings of $300,000. After she and many, many others were told on the phone by the supposed government agents they had to pay taxes and fees in advance to collect their sweepstakes winnings.
The IRS basically wants their money up front, and that's the way they are, man.
This is one of the scammers on the phone in a tape obtained by 2020, being heard tonight for the first time.
Credit cards are for emergencies. This would be considered as a very important emergency. You're going to be able to pay that back as soon as you get your money. And even if you were charged the interest, who cares with all the money that you're getting? I mean, it's close to $1 million.
Law enforcement authorities say the scammers have stolen more than $20 million, a sophisticated network of criminals using the latest internet phone technology to pass themselves off as calling from various agencies of the federal government. Their internet phones programmed to generate a caller ID from the Washington area code 202.
And you were convinced she was with the Treasury Department?
Yes, sir. I truly, truly was convinced.
Some victims have actually shown up in Washington, including at the headquarters of the Federal Trade Commission, to collect their sweepstakes checks in person from supposed FTC agents.
Stephen Page.
Does not work here.
Peter Higgins.
Also does not work here.
Fred Montgomery.
Does not work here.
Not FTC agents.
Not FTC agents at all.
The chairman of the Federal Trade Commission, John Leibowitz, says his real agents are now working to shut down the scams, but that they are so believable, even his own mother almost fell for one.
She called me up. She goes, John, I won this sweepstakes, and I'm just wondering if it's possible that this could be not legitimate. And I was like, Mom, I think it probably is a scam.
Despite what they said, the criminals who called the FTC chairman's mother and many other Americans were nowhere near Washington. Our 2020 investigation tracked them thousands of miles away, beyond the American border to Central America and the country of Costa Rica. One of the ugliest scams to target Americans in years is located in a place of great natural beauty.
They set up shop in Costa Rica. They realized this isn't bad.
In addition to its natural beauty, Costa Rica has all the trappings of America and easy connections to the internet, an essential ingredient of the scam, according to Postal Inspector Joe Gonzalez.
Can function just as if they were in the U.S. or Canada.
More than 20 criminal call centers are now believed to be operating in Costa Rica. One of them, since shut down, ran out of this luxury home overlooking a coffee plantation. It was from here that the scammers called, pretending to be in Washington, D.C.
This is Washington, D.C. This is the Department of Commerce.
Inside the illegal call centers, federal agents found a slew of internet phones and thousands of leads for the next victims, people who had responded to mailed sweepstakes coupons, particularly those with shaky handwriting, an indication of an older, more vulnerable target.
That's a valuable lead.
That is a very valuable lead.
Listen to me, sweetheart. Listen to me. I am not here to lie to you. I'm not scamming you. Get this done, sweetheart. Get this done.
So watch out.
The operations also kept detailed records on every target, including warnings about relatives who might intervene to keep the victims from sending more cash.
Watch out for his son.
Watch out for his son. Exactly.
The scammers had no shame, pretending to be Christian family men.
Look, as a family man and a Christian man, I'm not going to have you do anything that if there was something that can go wrong with this, ma'am, I tell you, hold on for a minute. But there's absolutely nothing that's going to go wrong with this.
We've never seen something so despicable. Willingly destroying people's lives by taking every nickel they can suck out of them.
And authorities say there are new victims every day, as the Americans accused of being part of the scam continue to live a life of luxury in Costa Rica, a place where at least one of them thought he was safe until we found him and he tried to run away. When we return.
Okay. Federal Trade Commission, how may I direct your call?
Retired school teacher Bob Sussman of suburban Philadelphia sent $23,000 to the people he thought were with the Federal Trade Commission.
He says to me, I'm sitting here in my office here in Washington, D.C., in the Federal Trade Commission, with a check for $350,000 made out to Robert Sussman.
Another target, Sandra Haynes of Mahia, Texas, had a young cousin who was helped by Make-A-Wish before he died of cancer. So, the supposed phone calls from the charity convinced her she too should send off money so she could collect her sweepstakes check.
I just thought that maybe I had been blessed.
The calls are all coming from the Central American country of Costa Rica, where a collection of American and Canadian lowlifes, losers, and criminals have set up shop.
I'm the IRS official that is handling this for you right now.
Using internet phones to make it seem they were government agents, still in the U.S., offering the good news of a sweepstakes win.
You're going to be shocked when I tell you what the actual amount is, ma'am. The prize that you're receiving, ma'am, is $1.2 million, and your taxes has already been covered. That's a lot of money you're getting, ma'am.
4 years ago, Costa Rican and U.S. agents raided dozens of the illegal call centers around San Jose and arrested more than 40 people, many sent to the U.S. for trial. But some Americans escaped the dragnet because they had married Costa Ricans or had Costa Rican citizenship and could not be extradited.
There are people we know here who are hiding behind Costa Rican laws. They were hiding behind Costa Rican laws, absolutely. And because of that, we can't touch them.
While American law enforcement may have had its hands tied in Costa Rica, 2020 did not. So we're heading now to find one of the people who's been accused of scamming Americans, but has avoided going back to trial because he has Costa Rican citizenship, so he's hiding out somewhere down here. I'm Brian Ross.
How you doing, Brian?
I'm from ABC News.
ABC News?
Yeah. His name is Roberto Fields Curtis, named in the U.S. grand jury indictment as one of the men who helped make the scam possible by setting up a network of runners to pick up money wired from victims to Western Union locations. You scam the old people? How could you do that?
I didn't scam anybody.
According to this indictment, you were involved in the conspiracy, as you know. There's your name. You took the victim's money from Western Union?
No.
That's what it says here. You're a wanted man in the United States. Do you know that?
That's weird.
That's weird.
What else could he say?
Yeah.
What else could he say?
What you see there, he was lying to me.
Yes, sir.
No doubt about it.
No doubt about it. As I said, we have enough that I feel we can put him away, just like the others.
Even more important to the scheme, say federal agents, is a second American fugitive living the good life in Costa Rica, seen in a picture a friend posted on Facebook. Authorities say Andy Limer has become a millionaire as the man who helped set up the high-speed internet connections for the telephone scam operation. The federal indictment says Limer knew the people he dealt with were committing fraud, but continued to work with them anyway. Limer now lives in an expensive gated community on the outskirts of San Jose, where his neighbors have long objected to a huge communications tower he set up over his home, which authorities believe was used to transmit the scam calls. When we found Limer this month, he was not pleased to see us. Mr. Limer. Mr. Limer, Brian Ross from ABC News. I'd like to ask you some questions about...
No, thank you.
I want to ask you some questions about the...
I don't care. Thank you.
Mr. Limer? A few minutes later, he came back out. You know you're under indictment in the United States and you're a wanted man?
I have nothing to do with it.
And they say you lied about that, and they have the proof
Who
to
is
show
they?
it. The United States government.
And I had nothing to do with it. I've never had anything to do with it.
That's not true. You provided all the equipment.
I am not part of it.
Did you provide the equipment?
I am not a part of it.
Did you
No,
provide?
I did not.
You
My
did not.
ex-wife did. I did not.
Nothing to do with you.
Nothing to do with me.
It's all your ex-wife's.
No, thank you.
He's definitely lying. And as I mentioned before, we have enough evidence on him as well.
Was it his ex-wife, as he said, who provided the equipment for those operations?
No, it was him.
Limer, the subject of a worldwide Interpol arrest warrant, seemed desperate to get away from us as soon as possible. You're aware you're a wanted man in the United States, right?
I'm not wanted, sir. I'm
Yes, you are.
accused. I'm not convicted.
You're
I haven't
wanted.
done anything.
You're a fugitive worldwide. His neighbors watched the whole episode with glee, including the one who owns the Mercedes. Wow! A short while later, Limer sent his lawyer out to warn us to keep away.
Gringo, go home.
And then the lawyer called the police, asking that we be arrested for taking pictures of his fugitive client without permission. The handcuffs came out, but then senior police officials stepped in, saying we had acted entirely legally.
We've been waiting for this day.
Why?
Because we've known about this guy for at least how long? 3 years?
3 years, yeah.
And we've waited and waited for anyone to expose what he's done. Yeah. And the fact that he's done this to old people in the United States really upsets us.
Costa Rica's top law enforcement official, Jorge Rojas, says he's tired of American crooks treating his country as a safe haven.
This country will not be a refuge for criminals. We have laws and we have a strong judicial system, and we will not allow this.
But all that comes too late for Patricia Bowles and thousands of other American victims. She's had to put her home of 20 years on the market after losing almost all of her life savings to the people who so nonchalantly cheated her.
They became my friends. Brian, they became my friends.
Who robbed you of your life savings?
Absolutely.
That must hurt.
It hurts a lot. Doesn't make sense to me that there's such evil people in the world.
Legally and technically, you're receiving $1.2 million.
But there are, now we know.
But really, congratulations, ma'am. I mean, it's a lot of money you're getting. Congratulations if I get it.
It was a family much like yours and mine, with all the usual characters and quirks. There was the handsome fireman with a beautiful new wife, the unhappy ex-wife, and the suspicious mother-in-law. But inside this family circle, there was also a secret, so incendiary it would ignite a private feud and a public spectacle. Deborah Roberts has the story.
We needed to laugh and smile, and that's what we did for each other. We were just a normal, happy, small-town family that loved the way we were living.
In tiny Wharton, Texas, Nikki and Thomas Araguz were the picture of happiness. He was a volunteer firefighter, and there was church on Sundays while the loving couple raised his 2 young sons, settling into a happy marriage. But there was no way Nikki could have anticipated what lay ahead, how a stunning secret would trigger a lawsuit questioning the definition of marriage and the essence of man or woman. None of those things were on her mind when she met Thomas 3 years ago. What attracted you to him?
Have you seen him? He was just so darn cute. How could I say no to those eyes?
Nikki's mom, Sherry Bonkelman, was thrilled her daughter had found a devoted husband.
We loved him. He was wonderful.
Thomas's family was also happy for him, even though his sister Raquel had some doubts about Nikki.
There was something about her that we just couldn't put our finger on. There was something that was different.
Different how?
The way she acted. She just came in like, I'm Nikki, and y'all either like me or not.
She's an odd person. To me, she was too controlling. I tolerated her because Tommy, for some reason, liked her.
Did you like his family? Did they like you?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, they're the ones who actually gave me my wedding dress.
The young couple thought they were perfect for one another. 33-year-old Nikki encouraged her 28-year-old husband to go back to school and follow his dream of becoming a police officer. Nikki, the breadwinner, began a new local magazine and cherished her ready-made family. There were financial struggles, but she says they were happy. Then, on July 3rd, just 2 years into the marriage, there was a 5-alarm fire on the outskirts of town. Thomas went into the inferno to fight the blaze.
We got the call that he was missing, and I said, no, there's no way. He's probably, another fire truck, or, he's probably on his way back already.
I kept waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to call us and say they found Tommy. But we never got a phone call, never.
Simona Longoria is Thomas's mother.
I knew Tommy, that's it. Tommy's gone. Tommy is gone.
Nikki was on her way to California to visit friends.
Woke up at 5 in the morning and went to update my Facebook. And all of a sudden, people started popping up saying, where are you? What's going on? And then my phone rang.
The call came from the wife of another Wharton firefighter who told Nikki to get home right away.
And I said, what happened? Why do I need to come home right now? What's going on? And she said that they had lost Thomas in a fire at 11 o'clock that night.
Half the town, 5,000 people, attended the funeral. Thomas was the first firefighter to die in the line of duty in Wharton.
I cannot even imagine loving anyone more than him. I can't imagine wanting to share a secret, a little dream, or a silly laugh with anyone as much as I do with him. Thomas, your love is a home for my heart.
A fallen hero in the eyes of the community and his family.
There's no words to express how much hurt. It still hurts. I still can't believe it that he's gone.
I cry every day for him. I miss my best friend. I still call his voicemail to hear his voice.
In the midst of all the anguish, a dark cloud surfaced, a deep secret pitting one family against another.
At his funeral, we were treated like outcasts. His family, they didn't speak to us, and that was very hurtful.
What could be so unforgivable that a widow would be shunned at her own husband's funeral?
The Nikki she presented to us is not the Nikki that we know now, at all.
And he wanted to see. So I showed him my body.
Watch what's next. The news that Wharton, Texas had lost beloved firefighter Thomas Araguz rocked the small town. But days later came an even bigger shock. The wife of the fallen hero had a deep secret. She'd actually started her life as a boy, Justin Graham Perdue.
The widow of a Wharton firefighter is defending herself.
The news would spark a legal battle over whether the widow was entitled to death benefits. No one could imagine that Nikki, a beautiful blonde, had ever been anything but a woman.
How far back do you remember feeling different?
I was 4 or 5 years old. I was not the little boy that they kept, telling me I was. I didn't feel that way.
Strangers would come up and they would say, "Oh, what a beautiful little girl." And I would kind of go, roll my eyes and I'd say, "Yes, but it's a boy." "Oh, he's too pretty to be a boy."
By the time Justin started school, his mom worried that her son wasn't behaving like his older brother and seemed more like his younger sister, Vanessa.
Did you do anything to try to toughen him up, to make him more of a boy?
The doctor recommended that I dress Justin very boyish.
I hated being dressed as a boy. Oh my God, it was the most uncomfortable feeling.
Vanessa remembers the relentless teasing she and her brother got from kids at school.
Even throughout elementary school, why is your brother, a faggot, or your brother's a faggot? He would cry and didn't understand how come, he felt this way.
By adolescence, there were clear differences. While Justin wasn't born with female reproductive organs, his body just wasn't like the other boys.
Justin had round shoulders. Justin had hips.
Renee Huff was a childhood friend.
Justin had a svelte waist and figure and a walk that matched and a voice that didn't change and to a masculine, deep voice.
And there was one other physical trait that caused Justin to question his gender identity.
Did you feel that it was the normal anatomy of a boy?
No, not at all. In fact, it was like a birth defect is what it felt like to me.
You didn't feel you had a regular-sized penis?
It didn't develop past like 2 or 3 years old. So no, I didn't feel like I had a, what you said.
A penis. You can say that on television.
Yeah, I don't like the word. Not when it's referring to me, because I never felt like I had a penis.
By high school, Justin was living a double life. He went to classes as a boy, then lived as a girl at night. Nicole Hagginson was one of his best friends.
I remember after school we would get in her car and she would put her girl clothes on and, maybe a wig and lipstick and off we would be.
And we'd go out together to the mall and go shopping. And that's when, it became apparent. I was like...
The charade is over.
Exactly. The charade of being a boy is over. After school, I'm being myself. I'm being, the girl I feel like I am.
Then, just after graduation, Justin, for his 18th birthday, had his version of a coming out party.
She said, "I want to dress like a girl." And I said, "Okay." And she went into her bedroom and she put on this black dress and her high heels and her makeup. And she came out here and I'm going, okay, now I see what they're all seeing.
He looked like a girl.
He looked like a girl. From that day forward, she would live full-time as a girl.
Sherry's son was gone. In his place, another daughter. Justin was now Nikki, choosing the name of a backup singer of her idol Madonna. And now living full-time as a woman, Nikki grew her hair long, wore makeup, and walked and talked like a woman. She was beautiful and had little trouble fooling men.
You would come on to guys as a girl. Were you worried?
Or they would come on to me, typically.
Or they would come on to you. Were you worried at all that they may find out that physically you're not completely a girl?
Yes, probably, but it wasn't like I was having any sort of sexual relationships with them.
We were nervous because this person comes up and he's interested and says, "Can I buy you a drink?" Right? Is that the appropriate time to say, "Well, but we feel that you should know that the person you're buying the drink for, when she's not going by this name, is Justin"? Sometimes it was flat out scary.
Fear was something Nikki had grown accustomed to, for good reason.
I was followed into the restroom by a huge, big, gigantic guy. That's all I can remember. And he forcibly sexually assaulted me. And I found out that I was HIV positive from the rape.
You must have been devastated.
I thought my life would be over in 2 years. And I lived hard and I lived fast because I was scared I was going to die.
Her late teens were spent in bars, drinking heavily, picking up men. She was careful not to become too physical so as not to reveal her secret. Then daytime television came calling.
You went on the Jerry Springer show.
Right.
And it was one of those shows where you basically surprised the guy. Guess what? You thought I was a woman, I was born a man, and humiliated these guys.
Right.
Why would you do this? Why would you do these shows?
I felt, well, I was a young, naive teenager who was manipulated by producers of a sensationalistic show.
Did you get a kick out of tricking these guys?
No. When I saw the look on that guy's face, that's when it clicked to me. I can't do this to anybody else ever again.
It was a turning point. Nikki decided her life could no longer be a game of pretend. She wanted to physically become a woman, and surgery was the only option.
I hated looking in the mirror. Nobody saw me naked. I don't know how else to compare it, but if you were born with an extra eye in the middle of your forehead and, everyone stared at it, you'd want that removed, wouldn't you?
The pricey operation was out of her reach for now, yet Nikki continued living as a woman, and at age 20, an older man stole her heart.
I knew I wasn't going to get involved again with anyone else unless I was brutally honest.
But would honesty lead to happiness or come back to haunt her? Watch what's next. Nikki, now in her 20s, was in the early stages of transitioning from a man to a woman. Petite, beautiful, and shapely, she worked in a Houston, Texas mall, where she met Emilio Mata.
Great guy, had a beautiful daughter. I fell in love with him and her and ready-made family.
And as Nikki realized that Emilio was more than just another casual fling, she decided to reveal her deep secret.
I said on the phone one night, I was born a boy. He said, "You're joking. I don't believe you. You're just trying to blow me off." And he said, "All I want to do is just give you a hug."
So he accepted you?
Totally, 100%. And within just a few short weeks, we moved in together.
Nikki had already legally changed her name from Justin. The couple got a marriage license and soon tied the knot.
And you were able to have a satisfying sexual relationship? Pardon the question, but
thanks.
One does wonder.
Yeah, it was not what I was envisioning.
But he was happy enough?
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure so.
But the marriage began to sour as Nikki and Emilio fell into a life of drinking and drugs. There would be a series of arrests as Nikki was charged with passing bad checks and driving under the influence.
I think I was just spinning out of control, and I needed someone who was going to ground me.
Her life was now in a free fall, and Nikki's dream of having a sex change operation lost in the chaos of financial problems. Then she was arrested for cocaine possession.
I did not receive drug charges until the very end of our relationship. Literally, that was the breaking point.
After 8 years of marriage, Nikki and Emilio divorced in 2007. Drowning in troubles, Nikki says she soon found an answer.
When I spent the 2 weeks in the Wharton County Jail with a Bible, I realized how important it was to pull myself together. So I got out of jail and grabbed hold of God quickly.
She found a fresh start in Wharton, Texas, and began going to church, where she met Thomas Araguz, a divorced father of 2. Both were lost souls looking for salvation after suffering through bad marriages. There was instant chemistry, and Nikki says that just like with her first husband, she quickly told Thomas the truth about her gender, that she was physically a man.
Within a week, I told him that I'm transgendered, and he was like, you know, what are you talking about? So I had to break it down for him and, you know, explain the anatomical birth defect.
Was he put off by this?
No, he acted very calm, you know, and was just taking it in and listening to me.
Now, let me be clear about this. You told Thomas immediately.
Immediately, and he wanted to see. So I showed him my body. And so we continued to have a relationship.
Did he feel that he was dating a man who's dressing like a woman?
No, he definitely felt like I was the most woman than he'd ever been with. Those were his exact words to me.
Her insistence that Thomas knew everything would later play a prominent role in their lives.
I asked him, I said, do you know that Nikki was once, you know, a man?
Nikki's sister Vanessa was pleased that Thomas was so accepting.
And he said yes, and it doesn't matter to me. I love her unconditionally.
There's no doubt in your mind that he said this?
No doubt in my mind that he said this to me.
Nikki's family was always open about her past, but Thomas's was kept in the dark. She says they stayed quiet about her physical identity, fearing his religious family wouldn't approve.
Did you sleep together?
Of course we slept together. I mean, we slept naked together for our entire relationship, unless the children were in the home. We had an incredible sexual relationship.
By the time they were married in the summer of 2008, she says she'd finally saved the nearly $19,000 for a sex change operation, and that Thomas was completely supportive.
He went to the doctors with me before my surgery so that we could clarify the process of what it was going to take. And
so he knew that you wanted to have this sexual
I paid for it a year in
reassignment
advance.
surgery.
Yeah.
While Nikki was having the sexual reassignment surgery, Thomas told his family she was having a hysterectomy. Finally, at the age of 33, after living a life of a woman trapped in a man's body, Nikki physically became a woman.
And he made love to me. He was so sweet. He was so romantic. And it was like we were built for each other physically, by far. The most beautiful experience of my life, to make love to my husband who knew everything the whole time and loved me anyway.
But their newfound happiness wouldn't last long. Heather Delgado, Thomas's ex-wife, wanted to change the custody arrangement for their sons.
I just wanted more time with the boys. She was taking control of everything, not leaving anything for me with school, medical appointments, dentist appointments. I would make them. She would call and cancel to set them on a date where Thomas had the boys so that she could take them.
Was there friction with his ex-wife, the boy's mother?
Always. There had been friction from the beginning.
Then, just a few months before Thomas's death, Heather made a stunning discovery.
What kind of paperwork did you see?
Her birth certificate stating that she was a male, that her name was Justin Graham Perdue.
It was information passed on to her ex-husband.
He was in shock, you know, and he looked at the birth certificate and he just like pushed it away and he was like, this is not her birth certificate.
She just lied to the family. She lied to Tommy.
Thomas's family accuses you of being manipulative. They call you a con artist.
Nikki, how do you feel about today?
As two families feud over what Thomas Araguz really knew about his wife and when he found out. Stay with us. The shocking revelations about Nikki Araguz's secret life, that she was born a male, came to light 2 months before her husband Thomas died fighting a fire. His ex-wife Heather Delgado, hurt and angry that Nikki was overstepping her bounds as a stepmom, searched for anything to help in her custody battle over their 2 sons.
I was able to come across a certain individual that gave me information on Nikki.
What had you heard about her?
She was a man, and that her name was Justin Graham Perdue, and that she had a lot of felony convictions. She was in trouble basically all her life.
Why does that have to come up in your custody dispute?
I just don't believe in sex change, and I didn't want my children to be around a person like that.
So she no longer wanted her boys living with their dad 4 days a week. Her attorney, Frank Mann III, confronted Thomas under sworn deposition about Nikki's past.
When I first handed him the document that showed that she was a man, formerly a man, he was completely shocked, like he was going to be sick. Then I asked him, did he know that Nikki used to be a man? And he said no.
We went into that knowing that he was going to lie. He was so afraid of losing custody of the children. And she kept saying to him that she's going to take them away from him because of who he's married to. So he was deeply afraid of that.
But would Thomas, a sworn peace officer, lie under oath? His mother says no, that he had no idea of his wife's secret.
When I finally read the deposition and I read all the paperwork, I saw the birth certificate, I fell to my knees. I fell to my knees when I read that. I was so hurt, I was so angry. Nikki had just lied.
But Nikki's family insists Thomas knew exactly who he was getting involved with.
On multiple occasions, I spoke with Thomas about that.
Her sister Vanessa says her brother-in-law had even seen photos of Nikki as a boy when he visited.
If Thomas was going to come here, he was going to see pictures on our wall of Justin. So it was going to be open.
Do you accept the possibility that maybe he knew, but he just simply couldn't tell you that he knew?
Maybe. That's a big maybe. He may have known some things, but a lot of it came out in the deposition that he just didn't know.
The anger and family tension soon became unbearable for Nikki and Thomas. Police were even called to their home to deal with domestic disputes.
Wharton County 911. What's going on there?
Domestic violence.
They were volatile at times, but we loved each other hard, and we fought hard.
Had you talked about divorce?
I'm sure I spewed that out of anger. However, that was never an intention of mine.
But Thomas's family insists that he declared the marriage over. In fact, the couple was no longer living together at the time he died. Now, 3 months later, the bitterness has hit a breaking point. In a lawsuit, the Aragus family claims that Nikki has no right to collect any benefits from her husband's estate. His sons, they say, should inherit everything, nearly $1 million. The Aragus family attorney, Chad Ellis, says the marriage was a fraud, as Texas does not recognize same-sex marriages.
The question then becomes, what gender is Nikki Aragus? The courts have said that you are what you're born as. Because Nikki is and always will be a male in the state of Texas, the marriage between Tommy and Nikki is void as a matter of law.
In her fight against the lawsuit, Nikki's taken the unusual step of having her original birth certificate reissued, this time stating she is a female.
It's all about money. It's all about money for them. It's all about my husband being gone for me. And the equal right of mine and Thomas to be married. That's what it's all about.
Is this about revenge?
No. As his mother, I'm going to protect my son and my grandsons. The way that I understand it is that if she were a woman, then yes, half of it belongs to her. But she's not a woman. She's a guy.
Amidst the heated family battle over death benefits, lost are the headlines of a fallen hero.
I can't imagine wanting to share a secret with anyone as much as I do with him.
Today, the focus is on a secret once closely guarded, now an open book for the world to see.
I have no private life, and my husband would want me to move forward. So I have to move on. And I don't even know what that looks like.
A decision in the lawsuit against Nikki Araguz could come as early as the end of this year. And that's our program for tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Elizabeth Vargas.
And I'm Chris Cuomo. For all of us at 2020 and ABC News, we are in touch, so you be in touch all the time online at abcnews.com. And don't forget, you can reach either of us on Facebook. We got the Twitter going. Please try us out and have a great weekend. Good night.